But it does feel like it is time for Jon Moxley to relinquish that belt, if I can get the word out. His title match at Revolution was awful. And that's not all on him, right? That's a lot to do with booking. That's a lot to do with the fact that it is a pay-per-view that was headlined by some of the most exhilarating, in their prime wrestlers that we have the opportunity to watch nowadays. And it was closed out by Jon Moxley, who is a low event main eventer, meaning he's not going to do the high flying stuff. He's not going to do the big crazy spots. He's going to do a technical wrestling match against Adam Copeland. And it just feels like at this stage of his career, Copeland can tell a story, but once you get to the final match, I don't know if he can deliver at a main event level anymore, which stings me to my soul because Edge was my favorite wrestler throughout my entire childhood and throughout my adolescence. Adam Copeland at Revolution just didn't look to have it. Now, maybe that was storytelling, and maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse, and I shouldn't have this conversation before what we see tonight on AEW Dynamite, but it was just a slow-paced match. The crowd was gassed from what they had seen throughout the remainder of the night and had nothing left for this. And then you have the Christian contract cash-in, and it just felt like a Hail Mary. It felt like Tony Khan was sitting in the back saying, this is not going well between these two. We need to do something about it. And they threw the entire Christian thing in on the fly. Now, I'm not saying it was. I have no inside information. But as a viewer, it's just simply how it felt. It felt like they needed something to make this match a little bit more memorable. So they threw in the contract cash in and they allowed Cope to not take the fall so they could have a rematch and have a redo on the end of an episode of AEW Dynamite. But again, it just feels like after that entire story, and it culminates tonight, it feels like it's time for AEW to move on with its highest prize. I mean, Timeless Tony Storm said it best last week. The other World Championship is in a briefcase, for God's sakes. I think we've run out of having that be a storyline that is worthy of the top prize in the second best company in the entire wrestling industry when it's as hot as it's ever been. You look at Moxley's title reign as of this recording, 158 days, 4 defenses. That's not awful. I loved the storyline with Orange Cassidy, who was begrudgingly the face of the AEW locker room against Jon Moxley to start his reign. I thought that was a well-told story. I thought it was a well-paid-off match, and I thought that it was a really good start to Moxley's title reign, even though he was doing the whole belt in the briefcase thing, which I don't like in general. Then you had Orange Cassidy and Hangman and Jay White at World's End against Jon Moxley, and Moxley goes over again. Also, very much like this. Sets up Jay White being in and around the title the entire time, but not quite being able to be the guy to take it from Jon Moxley's grasp. It closes the storyline with Orange Cassidy, and it brings Hangman Page back into the main event scene. That, again, very good. Then you had the weird retention against Powerhouse Hobbs on TV. Okay, fine. And then you had what we saw at Revolution. So it feels like while every title reign can have its peaks and valleys, it feels like it started off really high. It started off extremely high whenever he took the belt off of Bryan Danielson, and everything that we saw after that match. It was stunning. It was stark. It grabbed your attention, and it made this faction, the Death Riders, led by Jon Moxley, feel dangerous. Since then, it's just started to decline slowly and slowly and slowly. And one of the biggest points of contention, this is my personal opinion, was whenever Jon Moxley said, Cope, you're not getting a title match. And it had to be Cope coercing a title match out of Jon Moxley. Because if Moxley's supposed to be this big bad guy, and the Death Riders are supposed to be this unstoppable force, why is he backing down from a 50-year-old? Why is he backing down from, I get it, a guy who has been in this industry and is well-respected, and you're trying to tell that storyline, but why is he saying, no, I'm not going to face you? And yet he was fine facing Orange Cassidy, Hangman Page, and Jay White. I just didn't like that. It didn't feel like it fit the story that they were trying to tell. And since then, of course, the Cope storyline has just as the entire title reign had his peaks and valleys. The way he was taking out the Death Riders one by one by one with concerto after concerto after concerto, the way that he changed it up and switched everything up with Wheeler Yuta, I thought was good. It was nice. It wasn't, just let's copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. They added a layer to the storyline with that, but the payoff just wasn't there. And to extend it another 10 days just didn't feel like it was a good enough payoff for the story that they were trying to tell. So at the end of the day, I like Jon Moxley. I've enjoyed his title reign to a certain extent, but it feels like AEW needs a different champion to lead the way here. It just so happens that this is the perfect time, matched with the perfect challenger to do so. AEW Dynasty is the time. Swerve Strickland is that challenger. Swerve has been the champion without the title. That is something that Cody Rhodes talked about a lot after he lost at WrestleMania 39. He was told by, if I'm remembering correctly, Paul Heyman, go be the champion without the title. It was either Paul Heyman or, ironically, it might have actually been John Cena. I can't remember which, but Cody Rhodes said, I believe, on Chris Van Vliet's podcast. That is exactly what Swerve has been since he dropped the title to Bryan Danielson. They went in a different direction with the world title in Jon Moxley. But with Swerve, he finished the Hangman feud. He lost it, but he finished the Hangman feud, and it was a glorious culmination to one of the best feuds, scratch that, the best feud in wrestling in recent memories. That's the best feud of 2024 into 2025. It's Hangman and Swerve. And then his work with Ricochet has also been fantastic. He's been the champion without the title. He's been the most must-watch act on AEW the entire time. And that is over Moxley. I would say right now that is over Will Ospreay. I would say that is over the return of Kenny Omega. Swerve Strickland is at the level, if not higher, than all of those acts right now in AEW. It's time. His first reign was the best we've seen post MJF's 400-day reign. Right? I think that's how you have to break down AEW championship reigns. It is everything pre and leading up to and including MJF's long reign and everything since. And the best we've seen, maybe outside of Danielson, but that was something that we knew was just going to be banger after banger. He's going to have a couple of really great matches, and then he's going to call it a day. Swerve Strickland has had the best reign. He was the best champion since MJF's reign. I think we need to see it again. I think it is time that we give the belt back to Swerve, that we get it out of the briefcase, for God's sakes, and we run with Swerve Strickland as the AEW champion throughout the summer, leading into All In Texas for the AEW World Championship. So that's just my thought. It feels like this Death Riders storyline has run its course, and it feels like Swerve is the perfect guy to take the belt off of him.